The king of all television, Samoa Joe, was on the Sessions podcast with Renee Paquette this week, having a friendly conversation. They were talking about all the weapons that Samoa Joe sends Jon Moxley in the mail. You know, just battle axes and whips and that kind of thing. Joe actually, he went into detail about this, said he actually took a whip to somebody throwing rocks up at his kid's window one time outside. Joe went out telling him to fuck off, and the guy didn't want to fuck off, so Joe took this whip gimmick, and just whoosh down on his collar. Said the guy made a sound that no human being should ever make. Just, just fun Samoa Joe stuff, those kind of things. But it was in this particular clip right here where Joe was talking about not one, but both of his WWE releases. I actually forgot that he was released twice by the WWE. But if you remember, he was let go and then re-signed basically instantly. He was let go from the main roster. Then I think it was re-signed back to NXT. And apparently, according to Joe, this seems to be because of some sort of internal beef going on up at the higher levels. Maybe there was a guy, maybe a crazy old perverted man, hypothetically, sitting at the top that maybe had some sort of beef or vendetta with somebody that may or may not be his son-in-law, somebody with a big nose, perhaps, hypothetically. And they were using the talent on the roster that were hired or favorites of the big nose guy to kind of get back at him, to play these games with people's lives, people's contracts. At least that's what Joe has to say. Check out this clip.
Was all for good. And then, being released from WWE the first time,
it was very bizarre.
It was very bizarre.
From the outside, because I was already gone at that point, I was like, what the fuck? It just made no sense.
I deigned to say that initially there, as I understand it, unconfirmed, there is issues between the two upper echelons of management. And They were playing out their war with the careers and the contracts of the people underneath them.
They were a chess piece.
So, after the initial one, I didn't have much of a chance to grieve because essentially I was hired back within hours.
Yeah.
So,
because I think I was like, wait, can you do my podcast now? And you're like, nope.
Yeah.
No, I can't.
Yeah, I think I had to tell you good no, because I'm going to be back there pretty soon.
Yeah.
And then the second time, I just kind of chuckled because I realized it was very much the same situation.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I wasn't bitter or mad. The truth of it is, really to and this is to give, I guess WWE some credit, was that I was expensive. I was expensive to keep around. And
as you should be.
And if cutting my contract, if they say that saved the company money, trust me, I believe it did. So I wasn't like hot about that.
So obviously we don't know for sure, right? We don't know, but this is just another piece to that puzzle where we're all kind of getting these little tidbits here and there, because publicly nobody's going to admit to any kind of beef going on within the company. Triple H, even as recently as this week, I believe, had made a comment somewhere along the way that it was nice having Vince back in for his insight and his wisdom and yada, yada, yada. How soon we forget that Triple H was on the board that unanimously voted to keep Vince out. And, Samoa Joe just adding more fuel to that fire. Joe's not a liar. He's not a bullshitter. He doesn't know for a fact, but it seemed to him that his release kind of had to do with maybe Vince just, he didn't outright say this. He kept it vague, people at the top or whatever. But clearly, Samoa Joe was a Triple H guy. Triple H hired him in and brought him into NXT and was the reason that he got called up to the main roster. Like he kicked ass in NXT, got that call up to the main roster, and then Vince just took a big shit on him, didn't want him around. Maybe this had to do with, we've been hearing about this divide between Vince and Triple H since the NXT lost the ratings war, the Wednesday Night Wars, right? And we heard that Vince went in and dismantled NXT and turned it to NXT fucking paint splatter, and took Triple H off of his responsibilities and got rid of a lot of the guys that Triple H hired, and Samoa Joe is one of those casualties. And at least that's the perspective that Joe had on it. He also said that it could just be, if it is true that the way that they're saying it was just to kind of cut the money, make room in the budget. Joe said he was pretty expensive. He didn't name a number, but he said he's a pricey guy to have around. So he didn't blame anybody, or he wasn't mad about it or whatever. And look, all's well that ends well. Joe certainly, landed on his feet after WWE. He got the call to play Sweet Tooth in the Twisted Metal movie that's, I guess, still in production, but will be coming out. Joe won't be the voice of that character. He'll be the physical body of it, though. And if you've ever seen Sweet Tooth, you see, Samoa Joe will be a perfect fit for that. And then I guess he's also the voice for King Shark in, I think it's the video game, the Suicide Squad versus Justice League video game that's coming up. But somewhere along the way, Joe played the voice of King Shark as well. Look, Samoa Joe's doing big things. Now he's the two champ, double champ, the champ. He's got the TV title for Ring of Honor, and he's got the TNT title once again after a hellacious battle with Darby Allin. Things are good, and Joe's on a good run in AEW right now too. I feel like he's back to his prime, his dangerous, his where he was just a straight up killer. I feel like when he first got into AEW, he was kind of floundering a little bit, but I think he's really kind of hit his stride now as the king of all television. I absolutely love it. So good for Joe, man. All's well that ends well. But it's something to kind of keep in mind, and it is worth reading into, in my opinion, that he believes he was the casualty of two feuding parties at the top. And this is something that we been talking about, this palace intrigue, these warring factions within the system. Presumably it's Team Triple H and Stephanie against Team Vince. Stephanie left the company as soon as Vince came back. Clearly something, even though they're putting on a good public face, clearly there's an issue here somewhere, right? And who knows where Nick Khan fits in with all this. He's probably just riding the fence, and he's just on whatever side's going to keep him employed, He did say in his interview that it's best to stay out of the family matters, and this is certainly a family issue, but just more evidence to the fact that there's something here going on behind the scenes that they're not talking about exactly. So we'll keep keeping an eye on that, but definitely worth going out of your way to check out this episode of The Sessions with Renee Paquette with Samoa Joe. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next.
Let me tell you something, brother. You can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on this channel, dude. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to take your vitamins and say your prayers, brother.